This is a video on how to install a GJ Motorsports third brake light on an 09 through 14 F-150 or Raptor. I'm using specifically the reverse harness, so this is going to tap into one of the reverse wires under the dashboard. The process is similar for other harnesses. Your wiring is just going to look a little bit different. And then I assume that Gen 2 and Gen 3 Raptors, the process is pretty similar as well. But anyway, I'm going to assume that you know how to put this unit together. It's pretty easy. You just put your lights in here. There's a couple gaskets, some Allen or hex head screws, and then a gasket that goes on the back side. So we'll get started with the install. Alright, first things first, you got to remove your factory third brake light. So this is held in by one screw on each side. You can take those out with a Phillips head, or I think a 9/32 socket works as well. So that's step one. They're attached to a couple of clips that are in here. I've already removed them and attached them back onto the light for safekeeping. You'll want to take those clips off as well, and be careful on the paint as much as possible. You can see I did a little bit of damage here, which I may or may not touch up. You might want to touch up if you're in the Midwest. So for the next step here, we're going to be removing or unclipping the factory third brake light from the harness. I recommend opening your rear window, sliding it open before you get started. It gives you better access. Also, I didn't mention it, but you should obviously remove your negative battery terminal since we're working with electrical here. So to get the headliner down, there's two clips here. So you'll want some interior trim panel tools. And then you're going to want to pull off your C-pillar cover as well. In order to do that, you'll need some kind of a hook tool to pull off this cover here, and then there's a screw underneath that needs to come out. This is a trim panel toolkit that I got off of Amazon for like 20 bucks maybe. I highly recommend you get one of these, not just for this job, but for many others. In this case, this tool here is going to be super helpful in getting those headliner clips out. We'll see if I can do this one-handed. I'm not so sure. You obviously want to do this in a way that you minimize damage to the headliner. Sorry, camera was not pointed. So that's one out, and then you'll do the other side as well. Alright, so on the C-pillar here, I use the 90-degree pick to pull off that plastic cover. And then there's a 7mm bolt in there that needs to come out. And then at this point, you can just kind of brute force this thing off. Mine's been off a couple times, so yours may be more difficult. Yeah, pretty much you just want to separate this as much as possible. And then that's going to give you some space to pry the headliner down. So this is kind of tricky. You want to do it as carefully as possible without creasing. I don't think I'll be able to show this on camera. Kind of a two-hand job, but you can see it's free to move at this point. Just be careful. Use your best judgment not to crease it, but it'll come down enough so that we can access the harness up there. Alright, so I got the headliner free. You can see there's a lot of play in it now. That's going to be plenty for us to do what we need to do. So now in order to get this unhooked, we'll have to go back to the bed and reach in through your rear window here. Hard to show on camera here, but your harness is up here. You're going to follow the wire from the brake light through this opening. And then there's a clip right up here that you need to undo in order to get it off. It's just kind of a normal automotive electrical clip. The push pin is on facing the front side of the truck. Once you get that loose, your light is out. Alright, so I want to talk through hooking up this wire harness. There's a couple other videos on YouTube about installing these, but they don't go into any detail on this. And this is the stage where I got stuck, and I think based on the forums, a lot of other people get stuck. So I've already connected a couple pieces here, so let me undo it and we can start from scratch together. My apologies here. So I am not an electrical engineer and I don't know what a lot of this stuff does, but there's multiple parts or pieces that come with the reverse harness. First of all, you've got this guy. This is your main harness. This is what's going to run from the brake light up to the dashboard. You've got this mid piece here. This kind of ties into the harness, and then I think sends relay for brake and reverse. There's this kind of in-out terminal type deal. And then obviously there's the wiring that comes on the lights themselves. So first step is to take your long harness here. You've got one of these connectors for each light. The white connector that's split here, this is going to go into your reverse light, and then these two go to your outers. Does not matter which side goes where. So this is the part where I got lost. You have this guy here. The out side, as shown here, is going to connect to the white clip coming out of the brake light. And then this white harness here needs to attach to one of the in clips on the other side. I don't think it matters which one. And then you've got this harness here. This red clip also needs to go into the other end. Then you've just got two connectors remaining. There is this guy coming off the brake light and this clip coming off the kind of mid harness piece. They don't look like they should fit together, but they absolutely do. As such. And then your harness is ready to go in the truck. So this part's kind of tricky. Essentially you need to feed all of the harness through your third brake light opening here. This clip here is going to attach to the factory harness that your original third brake light was attached to. So you saw me take that out earlier. You're going to do the same thing here, but just installing this one. Okay, so I fed all the harness through that hole there in the opening. I plugged the factory harness back in up here. Luckily, this one is really easy and tactile, so you'll know right when you find it. You'll get a good click out of it. Now, we just kind of need to get the rest of the harness in here, and then we'll work on attaching the brake light. Before you get ready, you probably want to put these clips in so that you have something to attach to. So I would do that first and then feed the harness in and then run the bolts. All right, so fed the harness in. I got these bolts in. You'll just want to do a visual inspection. Make sure your gasket is nice and sealed up against the cab. This one looks good. So now we'll move on to the interior wiring. If you're like me and you have floor mats in the truck, take those out. They're going to be in the way. These pop off really easy. You're going to want to take out this rear one. And you'll do the same with the front one here. Might as well take everything off right now, so you're going to want to remove this panel on the side of the glove box. This is where you're going to tie into your aux switches. Kick panel down here for the fuses needs to come out. This needs to come out. But I think this needs to come off first, actually. Sorry, kind of hard to film and do this at the same time. All right, so that's all the trim. Oh, and then you'll want to take out the glove box too. I'm not going to do it with one hand because I'll dump everything. But yeah, now we can run the wire. Okay, so the wire harness is run through the headliner, comes down the C-pillar as you can see it there, down through this kick panel. This trim doesn't come off, so you just kind of have to force it down there between the carpet. The harness is in like a fray-proof lining, so you won't have any issues with that. So force it under the B-pillar trim, up here through the front passenger kick panel, and then, yeah, you're routed up to the front. So next what we'll do is we'll connect the ground and the reverse harness tap, and then we'll deal with the dreaded wiring of the aux switches in the glove box here. In the kick panel here, there's a factory ground location that will tie into, shown here. This is an 8mm. You'll need an extension to get to that. It's kind of in a tricky area. And then you'll add your black ground wire onto there, and then just put the bolt back in, and you'll be grounded. All right, now that our ground is connected up here, we have to do our reverse harness tap. And this is this probably is the biggest pain in the ass of the whole thing. So in this harness bundle here, there's a blue wire with a white stripe. I already have the vampire clip on there, but that's where you need to put the vampire clip on and tighten it on. It's really, really tough in this small area here. But yeah, in this bundle here, you're looking for the blue wire with the white stripe, and that is where the vampire clip goes. Once you have that on, your red connector here just goes on the end of it, and you are tied into the reverse harness. Then you're going to feed your blue and yellow wires up through the glove box up here and tie into whatever aux switch you want. You may need to do some reading on the forums on this. This is an incredibly difficult area to work in due to there being hardly any space to get your hands in there. I am tying into aux 2, so I'm going to the green and brown wire. It currently has a red cap on it. You can see it in there. So yeah, tie into that. You'll definitely have some scraped up hands, and you'll be saying a couple cuss words as you do this. So take your time, make sure that it's attached well so that you don't have to mess with it again down the road. And at that point, once that's done, the wiring is pretty much completed. All right, so go ahead and reattach the battery to the truck. When you do so, your reverse light's probably going to kick on. That's going to tell you right away if you know that that's wired up correctly. Otherwise, you're going to hop in the truck and flip your aux switch, make sure those kick on. I would suggest putting the truck in reverse, making sure that this light kicks on when in reverse, and then also make sure that your 3 red LEDs are working and that they illuminate brighter when the brakes are on. All right, so bear with me as I get in the truck and turn these on and test it. so I think everything worked there. I'll have to review the footage and make sure, but assuming it did, then we're pretty much done here. Make sure that these bolts are nice and tight so you have a good seal. You can start putting all your trim back on. Make sure that when you do put the trim on, it's underneath your weather stripping along the doors here. That'll go back in. All your front plastics are going to go back on. The excess harness here can just be tucked up in the kick panel. This will go back on. That'll go back on. Floor mats back in. Clean up your tools and you're done. So I've done this before, so this took me about an hour. If you haven't done it before, or if you're working with less than adequate tools, specifically if you don't have that nice interior trim panel kit, it could take 2 or more hours. But yeah, once you do it once, it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, the hardest parts are connecting the different pieces of the harness and figuring out where all those need to go. Tying into your aux switch here, which if you've done that for anything else, you know how to do it and how much of a pain in the ass it is. Same process. And then tapping into the reverse harness down here with the vampire clip is also pretty difficult. But overall, you should be able to do it at home by yourself. You really don't need to take it to an expert for this. So yeah, and then once you're done, negative battery terminal back on, and you should be all set. So any questions, feel free to throw them down in the comments and I'll help out wherever I can. Hopefully this video isn't too long, or wasn't too long. I've kind of rambled on a little bit here, but I know there was a lot of missing information that I looked for when I was first installing one of these. So anyway, we'll wrap it up. Thanks a bunch for watching. Feel free to subscribe for future Raptor content. I do have a Ranger Raptor ordered. Don't have a build date yet, but hopefully it'll come at some point early-ish next year. I guess we'll see how production ramps up. But yeah, stick around, like the video, subscribe if you want, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks a bunch.